So anyway, this is taking way longer than I ever expected it to. I still haven't got the red guard on the entire surface. Well, I did get my curb built, and I got some of the tape installed. I got a couple of corners I need to do yet, and then I'll mop that in place. I'm probably gonna have to get some more of that red guard because I don't think I have enough to do the whole thing. But interesting, yesterday I talked about not being able to get things done, and while I was sitting at the table and editing that video, my wife called, and she's working in California this week, and she called. We talked for a little while, and I let her talk to the kids, and we said our pleasantries and hung up and said good night. And 20 minutes later she calls, "Oh my God, I got to show you this. Go on Facebook." So she forwarded me a news piece that aired on the local news here about a pending lawsuit, a federal lawsuit against Clark County School District, apparently from the actions of a teacher that was allegedly abusing special needs children. And it turns out that this woman that was allegedly abusing these children is one of my son's teachers now in Nye County. I watched the news piece and was deeply concerned, and my wife asked me if I would go and check in on him today at school. Now, I'm not going to stalk his classroom. That's just dumb. But I did agree to go talk to the principal, which I did this morning. So I didn't get out here to work on the bus at 9:30 this morning. I didn't get out here until afternoon. I went and talked to the principal and got the other side of the story because, I have some experience with news people, and a lot of times these people get sent out to cover these stories. They're fresh out of journalism school, right? They're fresh out of indoctrination, and they get sent out by their press rooms to go cover this story, and they go out with a little pad of paper or their smartphone or whatever, and they go and they ask stupid questions. They take notes in shorthand, and then they come up with a story that may or may not resemble anything close to the truth. Even if you give them 100% accurate information, they will find a way in the 2 minutes they have your attention on the TV to fuck the story up beyond measure. And certainly this story, and I'll put a link to the story if you want to go watch it. Certainly the story was slanted with a certain bias. That being said, if you watch the video, there was surveillance video of her doing what she was alleged to do without any context, of course, but still, the video is pretty damning. Maybe I'll wait till we get inside and talk about it a little bit more out of this wind. My wife obviously was very distraught, and being several hundred miles away, she's powerless to follow up and do anything about it anyway. So I agreed to go talk to the principal, which I did this morning. Hi, kitty. Oh, poor kitty. What I discovered was information that was not disclosed in the news piece, in that she's now this woman's been my son's teacher. This will be the second year. She came on at the beginning of the school year last year, and we haven't had any concern at all about her behavior around my son or interaction with my son until yesterday. And so I went and talked, like I said, I went and talked to the principal, and I was relieved to learn that my son's teacher disclosed the issue and the incident with the county before they hired her. She brought it up. The county didn't bring it up, our school district. So she was in full disclosure, and she's being monitored and watched. She's not allowed to be, and I'm sure this is true for any of the special ed kids, they're not allowed to be alone with the student at any time. There's always at least 2 people with those kids at all time, even when they're out in the playground. My son's school takes the children's safety and security very seriously there at the school. There's only one door to come into off the street, and it forces you into the office. So in order to get into the school, you have to go through the office to do it. And in the special ed department where my son is at, I think there's 4 teachers that work together as a team to manage these little special needs kids, because they can be a handful, let me tell you. Based on my conversation with the principal, it kind of put my mind a little bit at ease, less concerned than I was before the meeting. And we do have a meeting with that teacher and some of the other special ed team to set goals for his education program. So that's coming up on Friday. That was going to happen anyway. Now that I've had a few hours to really stew upon it and think about it, I'm at an impasse. I don't know if that's even the right term. I don't think it is. One of the things that I regret doing this morning was reposting or sharing that news piece on social media. I went on Facebook and I watched it again and I shared it, and almost immediately. There's a gal that I know. I used to work with her husband. They live in Texas now. They have an autistic child, and she went off. She went off and said she should be arrested and blah blah blah. Another friends of ours that used to live here in Pahrump, they now live in the San Francisco Bay Area. They were, they didn't really go into any kind of moral outrage, but they're like, what the F, And I think that's a natural knee-jerk reaction when you hear stories about abuse in general, especially abuse towards children and the elderly, because they can't defend themselves. The reason I regret it is because it only gave one side of the story. The news piece gave a sensationalized version of the facts. And I'm using their version of the facts loosely, because the fact of the matter is that a complaint was filed, the police were involved, the police did an investigation, and the information that was gleaned from that investigation was passed to the district attorney, who did not file charges. She wasn't arrested. She didn't lose her teaching credentials. She didn't hide it from her new employer. She fully disclosed everything that happened with her new employer. And now there's a lawsuit pending from the parents of these abused kids. And after speaking with the principal, I'm wondering whether or not that lawsuit has anything to do with the fact that there's lawyers and money involved. You know what I'm saying? I'm certainly, don't get me wrong, don't hate me in the comments. I'm not condoning this woman's actions. What she did was wrong. In our legal system, you're innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. At what point do we disregard the rule of law and besmirch somebody because somebody said something negative about them? I'm a sinner saved by grace. I was thinking about this today. If I got caught for half the shit that I did in my misspent youth, would I be granted clemency if I asked for it? Or would I have been tossed to the wolves? There was a guy that spoke out against the mob who was prepared to do grave bodily harm to a woman because she committed adultery. The mob was ready to lynch her. And Jesus said, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." Not only did he say it, he put himself between the woman and the mob and said, "Hey, whoever's without sin, you can throw the first rock." I talked to my wife, a couple of hours ago, and she took her lunch break and she called. She wanted to know what happened. She wanted to know how my conversation went with the principal, and of course she wasn't happy with what I had to report. But at the end of the day, I don't have the authority to remove this woman from her job, and quite frankly, neither does the principal. Be that as it may, the fact still remains in the eyes of the law. She didn't do anything wrong illegally, from a legal perspective. And to remove her from her job would probably open the county up to an even larger lawsuit for wrongful termination. But the fact still remains that that there was a breach of trust by this teacher in the other school district, and now she has to work double time to earn that trust back in her new position. And if we as a society dismiss the redeemable qualities of man, if we dismiss that out of hand and say that nobody's redeemable, and that once you've committed an act that's unacceptable to society, then forevermore you will be branded, and this scarlet letter will be placed upon you, and that you'll never be redeemable, that you'll always be a child abuser. We do this to pedophiles already, and don't get me wrong, don't get me started there. Don't mistake what I'm saying as an excuse or an acceptance of pedophilia. I do not accept it at all. But I do understand that the redemption is possible. Even though it may not be the norm, redemption is possible, and people can change. And my wife, because of some of her experiences in her life, tends to view things from a negative perspective. In other words, she's been through some stuff that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. She's been through things in her life that causes her to see the worst possible outcome. And the principal, on the other hand, chooses to see things from the opposite perspective. She looks at things with a positive spin, what's possible, rather than, it's impossible for this person to change. Not saying that, this teacher has an uphill battle if she ever hopes to have a fulfilling career in education. And while I agree she probably shouldn't be back teaching special needs children, that call is out of my purview. I can't do anything about that other than pull my kid out of that school. Where am I going to put him then? We don't have the wherewithal to put him into a private school. And most private schools in this area anyway don't have a special education program for autistic kids. So our options are limited. If I see any signs of abuse, I'll be sure to make note of it and bring it to the attention of the school. What can I do? What's within my authority? What do I have the power to do? As a Christian, what I can do is I can pray for this woman. So I should be praying for her anyway. But I really should be praying for her to get the help that she needs to be a better teacher and a better person. And just think if we as a society did that collectively, whether, I don't know if that would make a difference or not, but I can't imagine it would hurt. Maybe you're not a believer. That's okay too. But I've been thinking a lot about it today. It's been on the front of my mind there all day when I finally did get back home and started working on the bus again. The reactions to today's news couldn't be more polar opposite between myself and my wife. My wife wants to hang the woman by her toenails. I'm willing to extend her a little bit of grace. Not much. I'm not perfect. What do you think? comment down in the comment section. Sorry I don't have anything more for you today. I just did not have the time to get a whole lot done. I didn't even have time to get out my GoPro. I'm using my phone, and I'm finding myself guilty of looking at the viewfinder instead of the camera. I apologize. So if you like this video and found it interesting and informative, hammer away the like button. Share this with your vast social media network if you're so inclined. Comment in the comment section with comments and or questions. That's where they belong. Subscribe down underneath this Windows red button says subscribe, and click the bell icon right next to it so you too can be notified of future uploads. And as always, you have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep your powder dry, and have a splendid day. Please pray for my child's teacher. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.